Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by Tucker Hazel. And today's a very special recording because I'm a
Yeah.
little bit flush in the face. I just got out of the shower. I have to
Mm-hmm.
take my pants off because
Mm-hmm.
it's just too hot in here right now. So
Yeah.
let's just
I mean,
talk
when
about
we're
my
on a Zoom,
of
it's always
course.
a little too hot.
Well, and that's the problem. It's just a ratcheting up of factors.
Sure.
We
Yeah,
our
of
usual
course.
sex appeal combined with the fact that I just got out of the shower. I had to
Now,
take
I
my
don't
pants
mean
off.
to turn the heat up even more, but I do have a copy of Kung Fu Panda 2 on Connect on my desk.
You do. I just had an alarm go off on my phone. This might be, when people are like doing political coverage and they're like fucking all over the place, like there's big news breaking and things of that nature.
Is
Like
there
there's an
big news
urgency
breaking,
to
or is this the big news?
there's an urgency to their job.
There's not ours. So no one gives
Well,
a
but
shit.
between me getting in the shower, you having Kung Fu Panda 2 for the Connect, and me having alarms go off on my phone, this might be the most kinetic episode of Backlog Banter we've ever recorded.
It's true. It's true.
It might be.
Especially with some of the games I'm bringing today. Let me fucking tell you.
I'm not bringing that many games.
Why?
Because ladies and gentlemen of the audience, I don't know when this video, well, actually, I do know when this video is going to go up, but we did a review for one classic Resident Evil 4, which took
Yes.
up a lot of both of our time. But unlike Tucker, I have responsibilities I need to take care of during the day,
Mm-hmm.
so I've only played a couple things other than RE4. But I want to talk with them about you.
Yeah.
I'm going to
I, I
conspire with.
just I just imagine you sitting up late at night whispering to your fucking copy of Star Fox 64 like, Tucker.
It's not that far off from the truth. But Tucker, I want you to kick off this episode because I know you've got some weird shit you want to talk about, and I want to hear about it.
I'm going to start off by talking about the super fighting robot, Mega Man, because I beat
Okay,
Mega Man 1 on the Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 on Nintendo Switch.
nice.
Um, and I, going into this, I had played a reasonable amount of it beforehand, but I never pushed through, which is really stupid. I think it was before I really got used to using Rewind more
Yeah,
consistently. And I was like, oh, I don't want to use Rewind. I feel like an asshole because of that. And I am an asshole, so I just use Rewind a bunch. And I got through this game. It took me probably 90 minutes or something. It's not particularly long
yeah.
when you can get through the NES era bullshit that Mega
When you
Man 1
can
throws at you.
never lose, the game becomes much shorter.
Yes, exactly. 100% true. But I actually think that this game, when you can, like what we did with you in Gradius and
Yes.
Ninja Gaiden, and as we're noticing a lot of these games that have old school game design philosophies that might not be as engaging nowadays, if you can push through that because you can essentially avoid it by using Rewind, it I think it lets this game shine in a way that most people who are familiar with the Mega Man franchise think that Mega Man 1 is like, outdated, it's old, it gets way better
Yeah.
at Mega Man 2. But I think the original has so many good ideas that it breaks through that bullshittery, especially since I was able to use Rewind.
Yeah, so I've never played Mega Man 1 precisely because of what you just said, because everyone always says Mega Man 1 is not worth playing, start with
Mm-hmm.
Mega Man 2,
Yeah.
which I have played and I do enjoy. Um, I don't really have much intention to play Mega Man 1, frankly,
Mm-hmm.
considering that there are so goddamn many Mega Man games,
That's true.
especially NES Mega Man games that are incredibly iterative. I don't particularly have a lot of desire to play one because of that, but I'm going to be very curious because you're playing and playing more of them in order. I'll
Yeah.
be interested to see how your thoughts evolve and if you feel a sort of stagnation as you play more, or
Mm-hmm.
if you start playing two and start playing three, which are both really great games, and you're like, yeah, actually, yeah, fuck Mega Man 1 in hindsight. I'll be curious
Sure.
to see if your thoughts change in that way.
So here's the thing with Mega Man 1, I think that the fact that this game introduces so many innovative concepts that started essentially what the Mega Man formula was, but
Yeah.
uproot what action platformers of the time were. Choosing your stage order is fucking huge. The idea that you can get the boss's weapons, of course, that's the Mega Man thing, but it started here, with the first game, surprisingly. But that's a fantastic concept, and it gives you so much more choice in terms of how you approach the stages, and can take experimentation to take out different enemies, and of course mess around with the boss order to see which boss weapons take out other bosses quickly. That's all very cool. Like it really is innovative, and it's leagues above everything else. Unfortunately, I think that some of it, like the fact that the experimentation is there and you can find weapons that take down the bosses very easily, makes some of the bosses, if you know what you're doing, you can take him out in like 2 hits. And I just wish there was a little bit better balance there, because I like the fact that you can experiment and find it, but when you get the right thing and it just takes it out in 5 seconds, like, oh well, it's barely a boss battle. It's hard. And some of the normal enemies are harder than that. And I also think that Wily's Castle, which is the last 4 stages of the game, kind of sucks. There's a boss rush near the end of it where you have to refight all of them, all of the original 6 bosses, just without anything. Like you just teleport up, and you take one. And that was a little stupid. It wasn't that fun. Also, there's another Yellow Devil. People complain about Yellow Devil with Rewind. I think it's a pretty interesting boss mechanic because you're able to, or it's more dodging based rather than attacking based. So I thought that was actually not that bad. But overall, I think Mega Man 1 is actually a pretty solid game. I have it as a 7 out of 10. I think that its innovations make up for the fact that it has a few things that don't hold up as well. So I played and beat Mega Man 1, and I think it's a pretty solid game. But I also played and beat Mega Man 2, which is where, as we said, people really feel like the series gets its start and gets really good. And yeah, I mean, they're right. Mega Man 2 polishes up a lot of the bullshit that Mega Man 1 had. It feels a little bit less innovative, obviously, because 1 is where most of the ideas came in. But the fact that there is an opening story cutscene, you have more varied stages. You have 8 bosses instead of 6, and a little bit of balancing things. Like you can choose your difficulty, and on normal mode, enemies drop like health and energy pickups, which definitely helps the difficulty balancing a little bit. And there's just a lot of memorable moments in Mega Man 2 that I don't think Mega Man 1 has. And so, yes, sure, it is totally valid that people say that's where the series starts. But I actually don't think the jump is as astronomical as a lot of people I've heard say. But I do enjoy Mega Man 1 good amount more than, or Mega Man 2 a good amount more than Mega Man 1. But I actually do think Mega Man 1 is important to play because I think it's probably the most different out of the original Mega Man games because it has 6 bosses instead of 8, and it lacks a little bit of the polish. But when you're able to play through it without the NES era bullshit, because Rewind, it allows it to shine. So I know you say you don't really have any interest in going to play Mega Man 1, but if you are trying to get into the Mega Man series, I would say 90 minutes is not too bad. And giving yourself that bare bones roots of where the series came from is actually pretty interesting, all things considered.
Yeah, and I mean, Mega Man 2 is a very classic game, and I think it speaks to the quality of its design, considering I played through most of the game on platforms that didn't have Rewind,
Sure.
I think it's still a really accessible and well put together platformer.
Yeah.
Especially when you exploit certain things like the Metal Blade, just literally fucking shredding through everyone and their mother.
Mm-hmm.
So there's ways to sort of scale the difficulty even more. Whether it was intended by Capcom is another discussion, but
Sure.
I think it's just a really replayable and iconic platformer that I hadn't played in a while. But I'm glad you're playing Mega Man.
Yeah, I mean, I only have the original Legacy collection, so it's just 1 through 6.
Yeah.
Boy, have I been looking at those collections on sale on the Switch. So I think they stopped going on sale today.
Yes, I believe so.
But God, they're cheap. Holy shit, they're cheap. But I'm trying to hold myself back a little bit on buying games this year, and I'd rather play through the original 6 before I start purchasing more. So.
So Tucker, those collections are very cheap on Switch right now.
Yeah.
Which is why I purchased the Mega Man X Legacy Collection.
Today's a fucking Mega Man day, dude.
It's a Mega Man day. Now, unlike you, I only have one Mega Man game to talk about, and I actually didn't beat the one I have.
Oh, double lame.
Here's the problem, Tucker.
The Mega Man
X1 collection does not have Rewind.
Huh, what?
There is no Rewind in this. What it has instead is a Rookie Hunter mode. Okay. Rookie Hunter mode, I think, is a great accessibility mode. Essentially what it does is you play the game entirely normally, but you take half as much damage.
Huh, okay. That's interesting.
That's the only change, and I think that that's a great way to make classic games accessible without breaking them, because while Rewind fixes a lot, it undeniably breaks the game at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
Which I think is totally fine. I don't think there's any issue using Rewind. I think using Rewind is actually a great tool, and I'm glad that it's been introduced and kind of made into, a staple of classic games being revitalized.
Yeah.
However, undeniably, you're getting a very changed experience.
Yeah.
So playing through Mega Man X on Rookie Hunter mode has given me a greater appreciation for the game in terms of the way it's designed, and connected me a little bit more to the levels, because I can't just say, oops, fuck, I missed a jump, I'm going to rewind, 3
Sure.
seconds
You know
and
what?
do the
Yeah,
jump
that makes
again.
sense.
And so it's just a different experience. It's a more authentic experience, and it's one I really enjoy, because Mega Man X is an exceptional game.
Sure.
Presentationally, I think it's dynamite. The stages are all beautiful. The pixel art here is really, really stunning stuff. There's one stage where you're underwater, and the way that they simulated sand in pixel art is really incredible. Just as one example, there's a great attention to detail here.
Sure.
And the music absolutely slaps. Every track in the soundtrack is really phenomenal. And the movement's just really tight. And something I really like is that X has a wall jump, but it's a pretty atypical wall jump, because you can basically stick to the wall and keep hopping up the same wall. You don't have to jump back and forth.
Yeah.
So you can land on the side of a platform and bring yourself back up to the top. I think it opens up some interesting possibilities in terms of level design, but also gives you a bit of a crutch, so you don't have those moments where you'd have in the classic Mega Man games where Mega Man's doing his 2-frame animation and fucking jumps directly into a spike pit, and you're like, oh, okay, I missed by a couple pixels. What am I gonna do? There's a little bit more flexibility here that I think is really nice.
Yeah.
And the game's just well designed. It's just really fun. Going through the stages, getting the different weapons. It's classic Mega Man stuff, but it's presented with this sort of 16-bit flair that I really enjoy. However, I beat the 8 robot masters, got all of their weapons. I cannot beat Sigma stages. I simply cannot.
Wily's Castle version?
Yeah, it's essentially Wily's Castle, but for X. Yeah. I cannot beat it. Now, it's been a long time since I've been mechanically unable to beat a game. There's games that I choose not to finish quite often.
Sure, yeah.
But this is an instance of me desperately wanting to finish the game, but literally just not having the skill to do it. I'm going to. One of my imminent goals is to beat this game.
Sure, yeah.
Because let me lay this out for you, right? Essentially,
right. Laying it out.
You're in Sigma 1. It's a pretty, in some respects, frustrating, because I do have some issues I want to talk about in just a second. Some respects, frustrating stage that has a bunch of boss fights intercut with platforming challenges. The first boss, fucking simple. You get the right weakness weapon, you kill him quickly. He can do a lot of damage. Sigma can do a lot of damage, but he can dodge around, right? Then you get to Boomer Kuwanger. Unless you're a dumb baby, Boomer Kuwanger should never be difficult.
Sure.
But then you get to this spider boss, and those games where there's like a bunch of lines intersecting these other lines, and you got to figure out where someone's going to land. Like there's like 4 lines, and there's a bunch of different lines that can travel along the lines of the
boss. Sure, yeah.
I know that was a terrible explanation.
No, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
you have to do that for the spider boss, but he's on crack. He moves so fast, and there are so many lines. It's really hard to figure out where he's going to go, and you can only hit him when he gets down to the bottom, and he stays at the bottom for like enough. He stays at the bottom long enough to do another line of cocaine and run back up to the top. So he is really difficult, and by the time you've gotten to there, at least by the time I've gotten to there, my life meter is atrophied. I'm running out of extra lives, so I don't have many chances. So then I just get fucked by him. I run out of shotgun ice, and I lose.
Sure.
So I'm gonna beat it because I think that it's really an exceptional action platformer. But I'm having a lot of trouble with it. And at the same time, I think there are some issues that I really would have liked to have seen left in the NES era that Mega Man X continues with. The 2 main things, one is there are constantly respawning enemies, which are really frustrating in some platforming instances, where there's this one part in Sigma 1 where you have a bunch of these moving platforms you have to jump across, right? And they're moving this way, but you're trying to get vertically. And it's an interesting section. It's a challenging section, but there are these fucking respawning enemies that keep flying you and blitzing you. And if you get hit by one, you get dropped back down a couple platforms if you're lucky to not fall to your death.
Yeah, sure.
But then they keep coming back. So it makes it really frustrating trying to get through some sections. At the same time, the game has a lot of slowdown, which is not something I expect from an SNES game, at least not to the extent here, unless we're talking about the should have never been released Star Fox 2. So there are just some issues that hold this game back that I'm hoping and assuming get ironed out, considering there are 4 X games on SNES. but I'm not going to X2 until I finish X1. So it's going to be a little pet
Yeah,
project
very
of mine
reasonable.
to get through the game. But I'm glad I checked it out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know that much about the Mega Man series, to be honest. Mega Man 1 and
Yeah,
2, only ones I've played. I have access to 4 other ones, and the other collections are relatively cheap. But I really want to see the Mega Man series if I do get into it heavier than I am, because I've probably played a total of 3 hours of the Mega Man franchise
yeah,
over the 2 games that I've played. If I get into it a little bit heavier than I currently am, I want to go almost completely chronologically because I'd
sure.
like to see how the games grow. Because the one thing that I know as an outsider of the Mega Man series is the games are very fucking similar, and
Yes,
I just want to see iteratively what things they add, where certain mechanics that became staples appeared, how it impacted the gameplay of those games, how that mechanic impacted the designs of the future games. Like I'm mostly interested in the series from that regard in terms of its growth, and hopping around kind of just takes away the power of learning about that. Um, but X is one that I think is interesting because it's kind of a refresh. They're different enough games. So maybe I'll change that. But I think X came out probably after 6. Honestly, I mean let's be real. Or do you
um,
know where it actually came out?
I'm actually not sure because some of those NES Mega Man games were really late into the NES's life.
Hmm.
I want to say they might have actually been crossover.
Okay.
But to your point about the idea of lineage and iteration, I think something that's kind of prevented me from wanting to go through the Mega Man series the way you have is because they are so iterative.
Hmm.
And I understand the charm there if you really connect with the gameplay. But for me, the sort of classical NES Mega Man run and gun action, I don't think is as compelling to me personally.
Sure.
And I find the ways that the mechanics have advanced, the ways that the games have just changed in scope in the X games to be more compelling for what I'm interested in. And that really was, like you said, pretty much a soft reboot of the series.
Yeah.
And so I don't necessarily think that there's a huge problem if you wanted to, check out X, because X1 is on SNES Classic.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And maybe I should have played it there because then I could have save stated because I can't save
True.
state in this. But of course, that little bad boy down there doesn't have X2 through 4 like my collection does.
True. Yeah.
So, and I want to get good. I want to get good, and I'm gonna get good. But
How many X games are there? Because what does X2 Legacy Collection have? X
that
Legacy
has
Collection 2.
X5 to X8, but that's when the series goes on a fucking bender. That's when you get to like the really weird and bad pseudo 3D PS2 Mega Man
Mm,
X games.
okay.
The X2 collection is full of weird stuff.
3 games of weird stuff.
Yes, but it's the point of the Mega Man went from this really consistent, very iterative series
Yeah.
to being unnecessarily experimentational and not nearly as good.
Sure.
So I'd actually like to read a little bit more and see maybe if there's a change in management or what really happened because Mega
Yeah,
Man,
with the development of those later X
yeah,
games.
because
Yeah.
Mega Man was so consistent that they just did that and like you know
And there's Zero games, there's ZX games, there's Battle Network games.
Battle
I
Network.
with a little bit of research I've put in, there's a fucking soccer game.
There's some
The little bit of research I've put into the Mega Man series in the last few days, and then some of the retrospectives I've been watching, only up to the point of 2 because I like to follow retrospectives
sure.
as I go through them. I've just been learning a lot about Mega Man, and there's a lot of fucking Mega Man. Let me tell you.
There are a couple Mega Man games that
Yeah.
exist.
Jesus Christ, that series.
Take me somewhere new.
All right. I told you a little bit off screen that I have 5 games, but I'm actually going to nix one of those
Okay.
and put a little more time into it and play and talk about it next week.
Sure.
But one of the other games that I played this week is the one that I'm very, very, very excited to talk about. It's
Okay.
a game that I started randomly, as I'm known to do with especially the NES Online collection, quote unquote collection. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
But and just I got sucked into it, and I was on our Discord call with Nisk and Bela and Avi, and I wasn't saying a word because I was
Okay.
just sucked into this game, and they would hear me go, ah, damn it! Like I would get a little bit angry. I would have things going on like, oh shit, this is a cool mechanic, and I'm
Okay.
of course am talking about the NES release of a puzzle game in 1991, Yoshi.
Oh, what an interesting game.
Yes. Now I don't know what your experience with this game is, but I played it for 2.5 hours and it
Okay.
went by like that. I was so engaged. When I get into a simple puzzle game that I can like, that's the only time I get into something that's like high score based. That's like really repetitive. I think Yoshi on NES is a fucking phenomenal puzzle game with such an interesting set of puzzle mechanics that apparently fucking no one else likes. Because I was looking up Yoshi NES review, Yoshi NES discussion, and watching YouTube videos, and everyone thinks this game fucking blows. I mean, it like 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10 from IGN. Like people really think this game is bad, and I am mind boggled by that because yes, it's not Dr. Mario, it's not Tetris, and I think it's probably the fact that I got it randomly for free, like it's on a thing that I have access to. I didn't have to pay full price for it. It wasn't like, you know, a big release of the year. But I think as a game that you can just hop into on NES Online and dick around in, I think it's absolutely fantastic.
So I don't think I've even played 2.5 hours of Yoshi, but let me tell you something.
Not sure many people have.
Getting the bottom egg and stacking up a bunch of guys and getting the top egg just hits different. When that egg combines, dude.
And you get all Yoshi that like goes.
It's a fun and charming game, and it's emblematic of this period of Nintendo's history where they released a lot of puzzle games that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
Your Wario's Woods, your Yoshi's Cookie, which came after Yoshi.
Both of those I'm really interested in playing now.
Yes. I really haven't played either of those. Yoshi, I do enjoy. I'm not huge on the sort of puzzle genre on the whole, outside of Tetris, which I really do enjoy a lot. But I have played it, and I'll be curious to see your thoughts expand as you play more of these weird Nintendo puzzle games.
Mm-hmm.
Because Yoshi, I think it's a special game. I don't think about it almost ever. I probably would have gone the rest of my life not thinking about fucking Yoshi if you hadn't just brought it up now. But I have played and enjoyed it.
Yeah. So the thing is that I think I'm honestly so high on this game because much like when I played Super Mario Land, I feel like I discovered this game because no one talks about this game. I genuinely think I have gone my entire gaming life. I didn't know what the gameplay looked like, to be 100% honest. Like, I'm like, oh, it might be a puzzle game because I know there's a lot of weird puzzle games like that. But I don't think I've ever seen footage. I never heard anyone talk about it in either good or bad way. It's such a one-off, random, experimental NES era Nintendo game that is just forgotten. I mean, it's of course featuring a character that is recognizable. This isn't Clu Clu Land. This isn't Donkey Kong 3. But it certainly has not had an impact, to be honest. And because of that, I randomly selected it from the NES Online app while I was on Discord, and I do feel like I discovered a hidden gem, and I personally really connected to it. And honestly, the idea that everyone else kind of hates it makes me like it even more because I'm like, this is my game. I'm the Yoshi protector. And the other day when I told you Resident Evil 2 is my second favorite game I've played in 2020, that's because it's behind Yoshi.
Now your secret's safe with me and the probably 15 people that watch this video, but that's one to keep close to the vest, I think.
No, I'll put that on Twitter today, right after we finish this episode.
I'll retweet it. I'll fucking retweet that.
I like Yoshi better than Resident Evil 4.
Sure.
Yeah, but I also, as I was saying, this is a game I want to make a review of. Okay. It's going to be the first game that I capture footage of on my Elgato HD60S Plus. And I kind of want to just edit together footage and recording, write a little script. I want to make like a 3-4 minute review by myself, just edit that together.
Yeah. I'm gonna dig through the fucking folders I have on my computer because I made an overlay it's just a green screen basically, but exactly cut out so you can have like NES footage in the middle that you capture. You can put a border around it if you want, so it's not black.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So I'll find that for you. But I'll be very curious to watch your review of that.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to see the way that Nintendo has basically largely transitioned the way that they treat puzzle games. Now they're usually treated more as digital releases. Yeah. But there used to be a big trend of Nintendo releasing puzzle games late into systems life to kind of, bolster the lineup a little bit. Dr. Mario 64 and N64, a lot of games on NES and handhelds and everything. So it's an interesting chapter of Nintendo's design philosophy that's basically gone. Yeah. So I think they realized that no one gives a fuck about most of these games.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on like the last few generations of Nintendo, I mean, Pushmo, like Box Boy, that's kind of a puzzle game. Like
Pushmo and Box Boy are the big ones I can think of.
Yeah, I guess Sushi Strikers in a way, but that actually got a physical release. I mean, and on 2 platforms
for $60 as I paid for.
No, I think it was $50. I'm pretty sure it was slightly less
it was
expensive.
too much either way.
Yeah. I only played the demo of that, so I don't have any
I
feeling.
think I played like an hour of the full game. I don't know why I bought it. Do you want to hear about my big squeeze for the week?
Big squeeze you started last night.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I don't really need to hear about it because I know what it is, but tell the audience.
Let's talk about Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, let's do that.
Metal Gear Solid is a game I've wanted to play for a long time, and it's a game that I started last year, but I got a fucked copy of it.
Okay.
I couldn't make it work on either my PS1 or my PS2. The disc was just too far gone. I tried cleaning it; it just wasn't happening.
Okay.
So, in pursuit of a working copy, I purchased Metal Gear Solid off of GOG. And I'm playing it on my laptop.
God, that's
now.
I'm so sorry.
Now, well, we're gonna get into that in a second. 500 IQ play. So I've got a Surface. My fucking lungs and throat don't want me disparaging GOG as I'm about to do. Yes, they're owned by CD Projekt Red. However, on my Surface Book, I can take the top off and flip it around and make it like a tablet screen, which is kind of wacky. So I was laying back. I had just my big 13-inch screen here, playing with my DualShock 4 connected through DS4 Windows. Very easy to get that set up. However, a lot of my time playing Metal Gear Solid has been tainted by the fact that the GOG release is fucking weird.
Huh. Okay. I knew it was released on GOG, but I haven't heard anything bad about it, to be honest.
So I have seemingly dodged a lot of issues because if you look up MGS1 GOG, people have a bunch of annoying problems with the game. A lot of controller compatibility, a lot of save issues. And so far, I've experienced both of those, but to minor and fixable degrees. I couldn't get the game to let me rebind my controls, even though there's an in-game control remapping thing. It would not read my inputs from my keyboard, so I had to close out the game, reopen it. I was able to get that fixed. They built their own meta save system on top of the game, because usually Metal Gear Solid, you call somebody on your codec and they save the game for you, and that still works. But what that does is it brings you to this meta like save menu, basically like a save state menu now. So there is no traditional MGS codec save anymore, and the way that GOG handles the saves is really confusing. I never feel like I'm actually saving the game properly. The names don't change. Sometimes it makes a new save file. Sometimes it overwrites an old save file. Sometimes it looks like it hasn't actually done anything, but it actually has saved the game. If you go to load the game, you'll delete what you've been playing. It's very weird. And I wish the game had just been re-released on Steam, because the Steam version probably would have just been fine. Or God forbid the game was released on PlayStation Network, It's very weird that the game is only available now on GOG or PlayStation Classic, and I'm not buying a PlayStation Classic.
Of course not. No, I would never ask you to do that.
So all of that is wind up to the swing of I'm conflicted on Metal Gear Solid, but a lot of my issues right now are because of the fact that over the 2 hours I've played so far, I've had a lot of issues trying to get the game to just run amicably.
Sure.
That said, Metal Gear Solid in a vacuum is a game that I'm going to reserve a lot of thoughts on until I've played more of. Now that I'm past the more technical issues outside of the realm of one Hideo Kojima's control. But when I actually get into his work itself, and I don't know if people say this often, I'm going to take credit for it.
Okay.
Either way, Metal Gear Solid 1 shares a lot of DNA with top-down 2D Zelda.
Yeah, no one said that as far as I know.
Well, it's very interesting because it's a lot about finding items to solve environmental puzzles, about smoking your cigarettes so you can make infrared lasers appear and you can get around them, about finding C4 so you can blow holes in walls to reach secret rooms and to do things like that.
Sure.
About fighting these boss battles, and after boss battles getting a health upgrade, like you're getting a heart container.
You know what? You're making a lot of sense, not gonna lie.
And getting these card keys that basically act like small keys, and then you get them upgraded to be higher level keys so you get into more doors. And the way that the world kind of changes around you because of that, it feels pretty Zelda-like. The combat feels pretty Zelda-like too, in terms of your melee options or in terms of then your ranged options. The ways that it's a lot about inventory management, using different items. There's a lot of Zelda DNA here, which I think is very interesting. At the same time, the game is incredibly ahead of its time in terms of storytelling,
Sure.
which is not any grand surprise.
No.
But these are really cinematic cutscenes with different camera angles. The camera's always moving.
Yeah.
Of course, the sprites are heinous, and not the sprites. The polygonal models are heinously outdated.
Of course.
So it undercuts a lot of the tension. But the VO is really great. The story is about as fucking high concept and ridiculous as you'd expect.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty engaging. It's well written. I'm having some frustrations with the game from a mechanical level. For instance, the stealth takedowns basically don't work. And I looked it up online. I'm like, there just has to be something I'm missing. But apparently MGS1 is notorious for you needing to be incredibly precise because you have a takedown button. But the takedown, 95% of the time, will throw a guy over your shoulder and they'll stand right back up and alert everyone around you. At the same time, the stealth is line of sight before line of sight became as incompetent as it always has been. What I mean is you can be face to face with an enemy, but if you're outside of their very precise cone of vision, they don't see you.
Sure. Yeah.
So you can make eye contact, but if you're outside of that cone, it doesn't matter because they just cover their eyes. You can't see them, they can't see you. It's that type of deal. Yeah. The aiming is a little bit borked too. I think I'll get used to that as I play more because keep in mind this was a pre-DualShock game, so you're meant to play with D-pad. With the D-pad. So the game has issues, and I actually think it's too talkative. This is just a Kojima problem in general. But goddamn,
the characters.
Kojima likes writing dialogue, and he likes having characters read dialogue for long periods of time. These are extended cutscenes.
Yeah.
And again, that's a sort of flavor thing. That's a Kojima thing I'll have to get used to. So I'm not as positive about Metal Gear Solid as I expected. I think I also have the weight of a lot of expectation on my shoulders as I go into the game.
Totally reasonable, yeah.
But I am enjoying it, and I have every intention on seeing it through, especially because the game's not very long. It's like a 12-hour game.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if I would have ever had really told you about this, but this game I quote unquote streamed. By way I mean whoa, fuck, there's a lot of words going through my head right now. I set up my phone looking at my CRT TV right there, and put in my PlayStation disc and put on Instagram Live facing my TV. So I did like 3 or 4 hour long video, like quote unquote videos on my ye old retro random retro game collecting Instagram page.
Interesting.
So I have played a reasonable amount of this game in like 2017, 2016. Yeah. It's been a while. And to be honest, I don't remember most of it. It was one of the first older games that I actually tried to get into.
Yeah.
And who knows what changed. I have no idea. Like I just stopped one day.
Sure.
But I think that it's a series that I really could get into, and especially I didn't know it was so short, to be honest. I didn't know HLTV existed back then. Yeah. So I was just thinking, oh, this is gonna be like 30 hours. Maybe that's why I stopped. But I do think that there is a lot there with what you're saying, especially with the Zelda stuff. Like, very fair comparison. The more you bring up, the more I agree. But I really want to get into the series.
I do too.
I think that might have been one of my.
I believe it was one of your resolutions.
One of my resolutions. But I think I might prefer to get the PS3 collection of the games.
Sure.
Because that has all of them very accessible on PS3, presumably with some minor upgrades. And I wouldn't have to lug around my PS1 and PS2 and everything like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the right way to go. I almost think that playing Twin Snakes would be preferable.
Oh yeah,
but that game is really expensive still. So I would like to see where it was on PS1 anyway. But I do have this feeling, and I'm not sure how it's going to evolve as I play more. But I almost have this feeling of I'm playing MGS1 so I can play MGS2 and 3 and 4 and 5, you know.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Not that it's strictly obligatory, but because I'm just not sure based on my first couple hours how compelled I'm going to be by the experience as a whole. But like I said, a lot of that time was tainted by the fact that I just was not getting it running the way I wanted it to run.
Yeah.
But now that I have, I'm just excited to play more, and I'll certainly be keeping the audience updated as I do.
Yeah, no, that'll be certainly interesting. I don't know anything about Twin Sticks. It appears it has only ever been on GameCube. I don't think it's ever had a re-release as far
No,
as
Twin Snakes has never been re-released, and it's kind of, from what I understand, a more liberal interpretation of what happened in MGS1.
Mm-hmm.
It was Kojima making it apparently more bombastic and more campy, a little bit more in line with what came after, opposed to the actually more grounded and mature tone of this game, which I think is pretty
Sure.
interesting. So I think it would still be fun to play both, which is
Mm-hmm.
also part of the reason why I didn't want to go right into Twin Snakes, not on top of it being kind of expensive.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to be a very interesting release, and it's one I'm going to check out. But I think starting here with the PS1 version is a good idea.
Yeah. Looking just straight up on the shopping page of Google for Metal Gear Solid Twin Stakes. All I'm seeing is complete in box, like a sealed version for like $700.
Yeah, when I was at PAX, I believe there's a vendor selling it for like $80,
Good gravy.
which is comparatively reasonable, but I am still not really
Compared to
willing to pay that.
$700, yes, but also
Yeah.
for a probably relatively short GameCube game that is you're only playing to see how it's a remake, I don't know if $80 is necessarily worth that.
No, and PAX also notoriously overcharges. Like when I spent $100
Sure.
on Four Swords, but we won't talk about that.
We won't. No, yeah, you never mentioned that. But you know what I do want to mention? A game that I have been meaning to play because we talked about us playing this the fucking day it was announced. No More Heroes on Nintendo Switch. So I have played about an hour of No More Heroes. And then I got distracted by life stuff the last few days. But I'm very intrigued by the game, but I think it's just the weirdness, which I like, is just, I don't think it's enough to compel me because the combat, obviously I'm very early in and it might change a little bit later on, but it's very basic combat. The open world is impressive because it's a Wii game. Like that's insane. But other than that, it's not very interesting of an open world. I think the voice acting and dialogue is pretty bad, especially for whatever the name of the girl that you're trying to bang is. Her like Sylvia? Fake French accent is just really, really fucking awful. I like Travis. I like his personality. I love his apartment. I like the fact that the menus are different parts of his apartment and that he like has a little weird ways of putting together. I like the fact that you take a shit to save. I like the transitions where it like goes Pew! And like it throws a bunch of shit on the screen. It's like toilet paper going by. There's a lot of really quirky things that I think are really cool about this game and give it its unique flavor. But I think underneath all that is combat that is surprisingly simplistic. By the way, the fucking tutorial takes forever. That's a long bald tutorial. But maybe I just need to get a little bit more into the mechanics. But as of now, I just kind of feel like it's a little bit shallow, and I'm not sure if I want to press through the entire game, though it's not particularly long, so I might do it regardless.
Okay, so as you know, I was very excited for these games to get announced for Switch.
Yes.
Because No More Heroes is a series I used to read about Nintendo Power often, but I was a dumb fuck kid without money, and be a dumb fuck kid who was not going to be allowed to play No More Heroes 1 and 2.
Yes. Oh, Jesus, they're inappropriate. Holy shit, the gratuitous violence. That's one of the quirky things that I think makes the game unique and charming. Weird, charming to see someone's head cut off and blood go everywhere. Holy shit, there's a lot of blood. But I do like that the violence is over the top.
Yes.
But of course, fucking 8-year-old Abram not going to be able to play that.
Yes, that would have caused a problem in the Buhner household. But now that I'm the big Chad that I am now, and I got No More Heroes 1, Uh, No More Heroes 3 is no longer on my list of most anticipated 2021 games
Mm-hmm.
because No More Heroes 1 is just pretty shallow.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on. So I have played more than you have. I'd say I've played probably 5 or 6 hours.
Okay.
I've beaten about half of the assassins.
Yeah, I mean, over halfway in.
And keep in mind, I haven't played since that port came out now, which
Mm-hmm.
was back a couple months ago, so these thoughts are a little bit outdated. Um, but it's just not a particularly compelling gameplay experience.
Yeah.
I think the game skates by on the fact that Suda 51 is Suda 51,
Yeah.
and the world he's constructed is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what keeps you playing because the gameplay is nothing special
Yeah.
at all. And
But the thing
it's
is, I think it might have been received a little bit different because initially, obviously, you had to play it with motion controls, which
right.
probably made the combat a little bit more complex. It made it more kinetic and engaging. Oh, do you own the game? Holy shit, you do! Oh, that's right. You got it for a trade, didn't you?
Yes, with Virtua Eric.
Yeah.
I also got Banjo Tooie. But I don't mean to interject unless
No,
you
of course. No, I'm done.
the combat is worse in this version.
Huh. Okay.
Because basically you still fight with the A button, and then when
Hmm.
those prompts come up, you waggle the Wii remote in that direction.
Oh, I thought you had to swing your arm to
You,
swing the
you
beam controller.
no, you only swing when you're pulling off, like, like when the big flashy triangle comes
Yeah,
up
of
in the
course.
direction. That's all you do. And like when you do the like his fucking suplex moves because he likes wrestling,
Yeah.
which is why the game is quirky and weird and fun. You
Yeah.
also do that with the nunchuck and Wii remote. But I think that this is the better way to play the game
Okay.
with a standard controller playing with the fucking butte right here.
God damn, I love Nintendo Switch Pro controller.
It's fucking awesome. But I don't know. I just don't think the gameplay is compelling.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard by all respects that No More Heroes 2 is a stronger game.
Sure.
And so I might even be tempted to just I don't think that the plot really is that integral, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Oh, let's go fuck Sylvia. Oh, before I fuck Sylvia, I gotta fight these 10 assassins, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it takes a left-hand turn anywhere. And if it does, well, then I might want to brief myself on that, maybe online or something. But
Sure. Yeah.
I would prefer to have a more complex gameplay experience. And I'm hoping and frankly expecting that Suda is going to modernize these systems for No More Heroes 3.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I would like to give a chance to because, like I said, I think the world of No More Heroes is really fun.
Yeah.
But
I do think there's
the game
potential
itself,
here.
yes.
And that's about where I'll leave it. I'm gonna go back and play a little bit more of it. It's one of the games that I've had on my to play soon list since I got it. We both got it on day one. It was a little bit on sale, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna review this in a week." Remember that? Oh, classic, good old days.
Well, I think it's also testament to the fact that we didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
This game really is a product of its time, and especially when you get more into the open world, it's really antiquated, and going around it does not feel very fun.
No, yeah. I mean, I like the bike. It's a cool bike.
The handling of the bike is suboptimal at best.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Um,
I only ended up actually playing like one quote unquote mini game, like the side, like little side quest.
the coconut mini.
Yes, I did the coconut
yes.
one where Travis goes and he picks up one coconut and goes like he waddles to the thing, and I got 11 coconuts. Pretty proud of that. So it's a good amount of coconuts.
There is a charm to the game.
Yeah.
What? Like that's the point. Like there's something charming about collecting coconuts. Some of the later ones, you mow someone's lawn to make money.
Mm-hmm.
You pick up trash on the highway to make money.
No, and I think that's actually the reason that I want to get a little bit more into the game, see where it goes creatively. I like the fact that the gameplay is varied in that way, but unfortunately, that's what's compelling me most about the game, and not the hack and slash combat that the game is, essentially built around. But I do want to try it more, because I think my early impressions, while they're middling, are just first impressions, and I would rather try the game a little bit more. And let me HLTB very quickly.
I think it's in the realm of 10 to 12 hours ago.
Okay.
Could be wrong about that. More. By the way, HLTB needs to release an app.
Dude, I would use that 4 times a day.
I would too. I'd throw them I'd like to actually. This seems like a service I'd support. If they're like, hey, here's an app, 99 cents, fucking easy, 99 cents.
Oh yeah, 10 and a half hours.
10 and a half. Yeah.
That's pretty reasonable. I mean, I played 15 hours of Resident Evil 4 in 3 days, so
By the way, I'm a little bit skeptical of HLTB after playing Resident Evil 4 because they beat that game in 11 hours.
Well, I beat it in 15 hours.
Well, maybe I'm just I didn't I you know I mean I'm just a god. You know.
I mean, the thing is that it's an aggregate. So
Yes. That's actually a great point. My point's
yeah,
invalid. Fuck me.
like like the lower end is totally probably what you're talking about, but like
Yeah.
yeah, there's
No, you're correct. I'm incorrect.
rushed. Yes, rushed. You can beat the game in 10 hours.
I love
Average
rushing.
median is 16. Leisurely 27. What the fuck? Who took 30 hours to beat Resident Evil 4? What? HLTB, you need to get like real players on here who aren't fucking 4-year-olds.
Do you have any
One
other
more.
games to talk about?
No, as I said, I have one more game that I played this week, but I'd rather save it for next week to get a little more.
I'd like to make a general point that I haven't made that I forgot to make when we made the Mega Man discussion.
Okay. Not too long ago. I remember it like it was yesterday.
I remember like it was 25 minutes ago. Are you familiar with the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con controller?
Yeah.
As the years progress and we get further away from launch, I'm becoming less and less satisfied with the Joy-Con.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think that in a lot of applications, the Joy-Con are completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
And in some genre applications, they're completely inadequate. And
Okay.
playing Mega Man X, I found them to be completely inadequate. So I broke out this young gentleman right here, which is an 8-bit DOE N30 Pro controller.
Mm-hmm.
This thing
Which
is
appears to be essentially a upgraded SNES controller, but with the color. Oh God, I hate myself for saying SNES. I hate that. Fuck me. But with the color scheme of a GameCube controller.
yes, that's basically what it is. This is a neat little
Just
thing. I don't
at
know.
first glance.
Yeah, that's a great initial impression. But playing this, of course, you get your D-pad back. You get the buttons that aren't just small rocks masquerading as
Mm-hmm.
buttons. I really hope and actually expected that Nintendo was going to release different permutations of the Joy-Con.
Different shapes, yeah.
Different
As opposed
shapes.
to different colors, yeah.
Right. Because part of what's interesting with the Joy-Con about the Switch as a whole is that it's a modular system.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not really giving you parts that to swap out that materially change the experience.
Sure.
And I think that the hardness of those buttons, the fact that you don't have a D-pad makes a lot of 2D, more precise games pretty unfun to play on the system. I
Fair.
found my hands cramping a little bit trying to have a charge shot done while I'm trying to jump. When I can't be precise in my jumps because I only have a stick.
Yeah.
And the stick doesn't have a lot of travel. This is just something I meant to bring up earlier, but I really
I think it's a good conversation to have. Yeah.
that the Joy-Con need to be evolved.
Yeah.
And this is not a situation where Nintendo has to wait a generation to do it, you know?
True. Yeah.
I really hope that with the hypothetical next Switch model, we also see a thoughtful revision of the Joy-Con. I think would be really interesting is if we're already making a premium Switch, why can't we have an Xbox Elite-esque Joy-Con situation where we can swap out the 4 buttons for a magnetic D-pad or something, you know?
Sure.
Or just sell a goddamn Joy-Con L that has a D-pad on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot of creative solutions to the Joy-Con problem because I'm far from the only person having troubles with Joy-Con. On top of the fact that I've got like 6 pairs and 5 of them have failed because of Joy-Con drift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that Nintendo has become a little bit too complacent in terms of the Joy-Con and their issues. So I'm hoping that's something that does get addressed, not only because of the faultiness of the hardware, but because of its, I think, limited utility and the fact that I think something like this is kind of a necessary purchase if you're playing a lot of classic games on your Switch.
So now, I need to counter this point because I disagree wholeheartedly. While I think that the form factor and heft to the Nintendo Switch Pro controller is far superior and is worth the premium price, I think the Joy-Cons themselves are some of my favorite controllers of all time. I absolutely fucking love the triggers and the buttons for this. The satisfactory click you get from pressing any button on the Joy-Con makes games feel more engaged. Like I feel games a little bit more. I feel like it's closer together, so I feel like I'm tighter into the experience. And the only downside being the fact that when I play certain games that are a little more intense, like a Celeste or a Thumper or a Hollow Knight, I get like I get the depression of the A button in my
Yeah.
thumb. But in all honesty, I don't consider that to be a negative. When I'm playing something like Arms and I'm using the triggers to throw my punches, and it's not very far of a travel, so I can feel like I can do it really quickly, or I am playing one of those more intense games like Thumper or Hollow Knight, the snappiness of the quote unquote D-pad, I actually really like. I mean, I would be fine with a normal D-pad, but I honestly don't think that the separated buttons are too bad. I love the tiny sticks. I think that they make controlling feel a little bit more engaging to me because of the small travel size. And I own 6 or 7 pairs of Joy-Con. I've had one Joy-Con ever have an issue.
Sure.
And I sent it in, came back a week and a half later, and it was fixed. So I understand it being so different that it has some issues with form factor and people can find it cramped, but I completely and totally disagree with that.
Well, like I said, I think there's a lot of applications that Joy-Cons are really comfortable, and I actually am a big fan of split Joy-Con play. I like that kind
Yeah.
of freedom
Oh, yeah.
and movement in my hands. So I do like that. In a lot of cases, I think the Joy-Con are actually really solid controllers, and I'm a big fan of HD Rumble. I really like a lot of the
Yeah.
tech in the Joy-Con. So in most use cases, I do enjoy them. But like I said, it's a situational type of thing, and I think it's something that Nintendo themselves have tacitly admitted, because in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, usually you're always holding down accelerate.
Mm-hmm.
But they put auto accelerate in the game, I think, because they recognize the fact that holding down these hard buttons is not particularly comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so for games where you're holding down these buttons, it's a lot less comfortable than basically every other Nintendo controller, which has soft buttons.
Sure.
And I think soft buttons are really useful and necessary in certain applications that the Joy-Con just can't account for. At the same time, the shortness of the Joy-Con sticks make aiming really difficult in a lot of first-person titles, which is why...
Don't know if I agree with that.
Well, I mean, that's more of an objective thing, because the longer a stick is and the more travel it has, the more precision you have in where you're placing your shots. And that's why a lot of players who play games like Call of Duty or Destiny or Halo professionally get stick extensions, because the longer your stick is, the more minute changes in aiming you can make. And
Yeah,
because,
I guess Doom is the only FPS I've played on Switch.
right,
so.
and Doom integrates gyro, and the reason a lot of these games integrate gyro is not only because it's a nice quality of life feature, but because it circumvents the fact that the onboard input system for the Switch is limited from this perspective.
Mm-hmm.
These sticks are just not meant for games where you're doing precision shooting, and other systems account for this, and then third-party peripherals account for the fact that a longer stick inherently gives you better control.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I think that in a lot of situations the Joy-Con are pretty comfortable, and I do like them. But you get into situations where you're playing a shooter, or you're playing a platformer that's really precise, or you're playing a game that requires you to be holding down buttons for extended periods of time, and you start to see where the Joy-Con falter, which is why I think having Joy-Cons of different form factors is a great way to get around this issue.
Yeah.
When by and large, A, the Joy-Con suit a lot of play applications, but B, Nintendo has admitted with various software features that the Joy-Cons have shortcomings, and at the same time, basically all of their other control peripherals have understood that you need a softer button and you need a longer stick for a lot of these games. So like I said, I'm coming at this more from a use case perspective where the Joy-Con do fall flat.
So I totally agree that having that option for extra stuff would be fantastic. But from my personal perspective and the 70 plus games I've played on my Nintendo Switch, I've never had an issue with the form factor of the Joy-Cons. And I would say that, well, you might be right in something like the shorter sticks, being worse for shooters. Again, Doom, the only first-person shooter I've played on the platform, I think that most of the games that you do play on Nintendo Switch, the Joy-Con are absolutely fucking perfect for. And I find them incredibly comfortable. And the snappy buttons, like sometimes when I'm playing a control with a controller that has the softer buttons, I'm like, damn, I really wish I could press this down faster like I could on the Switch, because those face buttons on the Switch are so fucking satisfying to use. Like honestly, I think the Joy-Con are probably my third favorite controller, behind Switch Pro and Xbox 360, just because of how comfortable I find them. And split Joy-Con play is how I played almost entirety of Breath of the Wild and Odyssey and probably Three Houses and stuff like that. I just find that to be incredibly comfortable.
Yeah, and like I said, I do like them in a lot of cases, but I just think that there are, and especially as the Switch's library continues to expand and more third
Sure.
parties get on board,
Yeah.
and the diversity in software becomes greater. And I mean, we saw an unprecedented, the last year. An
You
unprecedented
cut
means,
out a little bit for that last one.
oh, I was saying that, I mean, just in last year, we got an unprecedented amount of shooters on the platform. And
Sure. Yeah.
unprecedented is not a huge amount in
Hmm.
comparison,
Yeah.
but the fact is that the way that the platform's library is trending, it's including more genres
Hmm.
that require certain, I think, control affordances that the Joy-Con don't offer, which is why I think that this Pro controller is a great supplement
Yeah.
to own, even though I think that this D-pad is not optimal either. But I
Interesting.
just I think that Nintendo could definitely release some sort of Joy-Con edition
Yeah.
that could resolve my issues with it.
Now, I like the sentiment, but I'm gonna be fucking honest. That's not gonna happen, and I will eat my words if it does. But I just can't see Nintendo being like, "Hey, look, new Joy Cons, and they're better than the old ones. Fucking pay us a bunch of money for it." Like, I think that would have happened earlier in the system's life cycle. To be honest.
I don't necessarily agree because you got to look at the Wii Remote Plus. The Wii Remote Plus came out
Interesting. Yeah.
pretty late into the Wii's life cycle,
Hmm.
and is really brought in by Wii Sports Resort and especially Skyward Sword,
Yeah. So
which were
actually,
very late
I
games.
think you make a good point. Is that I think it would take Nintendo software requiring those better
Sure.
control options for them to push for that, because I don't think they see much benefit in providing an entirely new control set for third-party games when the games still do sell well on their platform, regardless of the fact that the controllers or the Joy-Con are suboptimal.
Well, I think that the other X factor is that people like buying Joy-Con.
True.
I don't a
They still
larger
buy a
point.
lot of normal Joy-Con.
Right, and that's my point. I don't understand why Nintendo hasn't capitalized more on the fact that people like limited edition controllers and systems and
Sure.
everything. The Switch is the perfect place to have people impulse buy
Hmm.
different things, because, oh, hey, here are Joy-Con releasing alongside the new 2D Metroid game, right?
Hmm.
People are going to want to buy those. I don't understand why they wouldn't capitalize also saying, here's one with a D-pad on it. You don't have to make a ton of them, right?
Yeah.
You make them to sell, and Nintendo is very good at moving product and making the correct amount to
Yeah.
keep demand
Sure.
high. They could absolutely do this and I think make a killing on it
Yeah.
because Joy-Con are proving to be profitable and for as flawed as they are, I think probably what's happening is that their front-facing message to fight lawsuits and everything is that Joy-Con drift is not a big issue, but I think that
Hmm.
there's no fucking way that Nintendo internally doesn't recognize how big of an issue this is. By
Sure.
and large, there are people like you who haven't had Joy-Con drift on a large scale, which is totally reasonable. And for a while, I was like that too. A lot of my failures happened close together. But I think once they resolve this issue, we could see more Joy-Con, more variety of Joy-Con. So
Yeah, but honestly, I think that'll take sort of a step up for Nintendo that they have clearly not been willing to take the last few years. And if it does come with a push for more diverse software, like maybe it's Metroid Prime with that first person aiming that
yeah,
takes them to a next level, and they're like, okay, we need to release a different set of Joy-Con, and now they're limited release, and they've got a little bit of a Metroid design to them, and they have a longer stick, so you can fight fucking Ridley better. But I think that's totally possible. I just think, in all honesty, it's unlikely, and I would sincerely not be surprised if we went the entire Switch's life cycle without a different permutation of Joy-Con.
it would take Nintendo caring more about its player base,
Yes,
which
no, I
is which
understand.
is not really in the crosshairs of good
Of
old
course.
John Nintendo right now. But I think we're pretty much done with this episode of BLB.
Yeah, no, good time though. I'm
It's a
glad.
great episode.
I think we should end episodes with a little bit of a larger gaming topic. I
Okay.
think that would help diversify our BLB content a little more, or specific this series BLB content. Because why not? Why not?
I'll allow it.
I think they're fun. But thank you very much for watching this, guys. I had a blast talking about games that only I fucking care about, like Yoshi. And I plan on playing more of the Mega Man games. My initial plan was to bring one each week, one through six. So I'm probably gonna play three within the next week and talk about that. Excuse me. So you can see my opinions on the series change over time. Um, but yeah, you done? We done?
I'm still playing Clubhouse games. Shout out to Clubhouse games. Jean and I keep finding new games we haven't been playing before. Like we just got into toy curling. Clubhouse games really rocks, dude. Put 20 hours in the game so far. Fucking awesome game.
Wow, that's not a lot considering how long you've had the game and how much I thought you played it.
Well, we rotate between that and we were in Mario Kart. You know, you got, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you fuckers next week. See you fuckers next
Goodbye.
week.